But yes, sure.
Yeah, I'm
This is
also like
more what we
testing
do.
different sound, no, the recording settings.
Okay,
So, but it's actually quite annoying because I hear feedback of myself.
you're using something to record the inline audio. Yeah, is that what you're doing?
Yeah, something like that. Oh, this is quite annoying actually.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Because what I do, I don't know how you do in Windows, but what I do is like when I need to record a microphone and the line in, I need to do something through something that was called, yeah, now it's called, yeah, it's a multi audio device. But it gives me
yeah.
some it sometimes gives me some, yeah, weird sounds because you basically what I'm doing with my computer is like I'm creating a virtual microphone,
Okay.
like creating a virtual two lines in. Basically my computer has just one line in, but then it just use it and it makes it two into two lines,
Okay.
and one then I use it for the line in, and the other one for the microphone. And that gives, sometimes if I just touch my computer or if I move it, will start just creating electric static of weird stuff, and that's very
Hmm.
annoying, which I
Yeah,
don't
I
really
don't know
want.
how to set this up properly because
What are
now
you
this
using
is
now?
just getting so annoying. Well, the tool called Voice Meter because um, that kind of splits the one input to two outputs.
Yes,
So I get
exactly.
Jitsi. I need to hear it on my headphones, and also I want to record it on other computer.
Yeah.
Mm,
Ah,
would be
okay, but it's because
easier.
you're splitting really into two laptops.
Yeah, that's one thing.
Mm.
I mean, if I have a microphone on the other computer, then that would be super easy. But for some reason, it's not working because I
Ah,
just
yeah.
changed.
Of course, yeah, that would be the easiest, of course.
Okay, this might actually help. Do you still hear me?
I hear you. Yes.
Okay, I think I fixed it.
Okay. Great.
Great.
What's up, party man?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, I don't know what to start with, but doing fine. I feel a little bit busy on one hand, but in fact, I'm not that busy. Like, I don't know.
That's good.
Hmm?
That's good. I mean, I was thinking because it gives me the impression of when I talk with you that you're doing so many things that partly of the reason actually that the our collaboration works is because in a way like we both find that the
Right.
best practices it sounds as a it works as a liberation space basically,
Yeah.
where let's say because you're so busy then you come there to just basically liberate through things that you find that you're passionate about and they share with me, right? And it's the same way around for me. It's the same for me, but with a bit of twist, because I'm still struggling a bit more than you with technology. So, but it still is the same, from a different point of view, but it still is the same. Then just to liberate my own frustrations and like certainly the last sessions that we have, while I was in the chapel, the last two, I think I was actually since I couldn't use the internet and we used the phone because I couldn't use the internet basically. So then I was yeah, I couldn't basically use my computer. And because I couldn't use my computer, I get relief from the tension that I have from all the technical issues that I'm from all the technicality.
I
And
see.
because I'm more like I feel myself like that's we both come from different directions. So like let's say if computational and technical matters is something that still I'm immigrating into this. So is It's still something that is not so easy for me to grasp than you, I think. So then let's say when I don't have when I, because I don't have internet, so I don't have laptop. Then the first time that we tried, and then I was with the iPhone, I was moving for the first time, for
Hmm.
instance. And then after the internet came back, and then just already I get basically the mood, that mood. Then I remember there was the first time that I was moving, like within my context and naturally. What I mean with this is because, let's say, choreographically wise, so like that's, let's say, then from my context, the things that I experienced, that I maybe could have a bit more experience than you, like say in dance. Then when I think from my perspective of my practice, what I'm doing, always I have the problem for me is moving within technological frameworks, because as a dancer and then as a technologist, let's say, I found that it's very difficult to move my body. A good example, because I put this example when I try to talk with other people, is like, if you put lasers and drone sound in a chapel, like there's no way that the body can compete next to lasers. It's just no, it's a fight lose fight. So I mean, or the body has to be naked, or you have to do something drastic, like cutting your veins, or having a drastic, I don't know, like something that is really violent, that you catch the attention just by the action itself. But just the technology and next to the body in my experience. And that was my I'm trying to frame, is what I'm talking about, is that for me it was very difficult for myself, like, why do I put my body in motion? Do I want to even dance? I mean,
Hmm.
what like, I was having that question a lot. And because of my frustration, basically, that day that, like, I was with the phone, when I came back to the computer, but when I have internet, basically, I remember that my frustration became something shamanical, because instead of saying like, I remember like one of the things that I was saying, like, was "puta." That's a cursing in Spanish, because and then just from there, and at some point you react to something, and then just from there, is it moves my body from my frustration, right? So then that thing evolves to become more layers, so I'm more like an art form. This cursing, this basically, this limitation that I have from what I'm doing, it just opening my body, basically, because instead of then saying that, then I will start just chanting, saying like or something, and that was moving my body. And that was just from the last two sessions, that I could allow the frustration that I have within my framework to move my body. And that was something super liberating. And then instead of trying to control on perfect my framework, and try to, yeah, to basically controlling, then I just allowed my frustration to move my body in the direction that it have to go. And then I can go in a more trans way. I mean, more, yeah, transcendental whole. I mean, close to, in a way, how I perceive you. That sometimes when we go, then at some point I feel you're gone. In the sense, like, you are just in a state, kind of like in a nirvana state, that you are just gone. That if I talk to you, like, just will come into some place that you are moving and you are doing, and it's like you transform, like, it's like you are not auto no more. There's a point when in the practices, there's always a point when you're gone, and then I can feel it. That is like, okay, now it's like I is the now is like you enter to this performativity space, where you are not the Naoto that I'm talking right now. It's another spectrum that I know, but it's not this one. So I cannot approach him in the way how I'm approaching this one, right?
Right.
And that's the way how I have perceived this. I don't know how. I mean, I'm saying this just this. I'm just reframing from because I'm back at home,
Yeah.
and and I was thinking more like, yeah, I was, yeah, I started speaking all these things in terms of um how I feel that, because like now I just finished the things from my school that I have been working all that shit for all this time, like 3 days ago, and I was like, a bit like in a void, like in a sense that in one hand my brain is like telling me like, now what, it's a bit hard to just compensate because you come from I mean, like just pushing yourself like for 3 months, and then you finish, and then your body's like sleeping, and so, but at some point as well, your brain is like, give me something, you know and it's hard to deal with, like, okay, I need to rest, but I don't know, I just am trying to reframe all these things within what you say, like, and when I'm asking you, how are you, how busy are you, because normally you are super busy, like with many projects, and yeah,
Yeah.
how are you?
So, yeah. Um, yeah, in that sense, like, I do have many projects, but I don't know if I'm really busy. Like, I kind of have time in a sense, which is good. Um, yeah, and I don't know where to start again. But you said interesting things like, yeah, just like having this practice. I think it's like I do agree. Like for me, it's easy if I know what time of the day, of the week, I need to do. Well, I want to do this, and then we just meet and do it, which is really great because if we don't schedule, if we don't do it regularly, then it's gets like harder and harder to just do it. And
Right.
I don't say I'm busy, super busy right now, but even if I become busy, I think it helps to have to say that we meet every Thursday at 9 and we do
Yeah.
this. So yeah, I think it's totally doable, and so far I think 1 hour is good. Like it,
Mhm.
I thought it could be shorter at first. I mean, before we started to focus on the performance or practice session, but yeah, we still need some time because every time, like technically, it's not easy to start with, and I mean technology wise. But like you said, it's also this frustration that's part of it. But yeah, I don't know like what can be like how well it's not how it should be done, but I don't know how to frame it. Like, but basically, I'm not really like I'm not a huge fan of like dancing and doing some technical things at the same time. Like you said, if we have the drone sound and laser, then of course it's hard to perform in that space, and it has to be like you said, it's like
Or
hmm?
yeah, but I think maybe actually, I think maybe from this that we are touching there, it might be something interesting that we can go more deep into it.
Sure.
Like, because it's something, I guess, like you have experience, I have experience as well. Like, this is a reality, like just putting the body next to the laser, the drone is just very like a fight, like fight, no fight. So, but it could be maybe interesting in terms of like go more deep into like the concept or evolving even the material, is like, what does that mean, not in terms of like, are we trying to fix this, but it's like, what does it means, because for what I experienced, like in your doing, and in my doing as well, in the bit, within the practice, I'm 100% sure that we are honest when we are inside. And then if what I refer in terms like performance, it has to be a lot with honesty, from my perspective and how I see performance. Then I think we are in the right place. So then it's more to think like, yeah, I don't know, maybe I'm putting some notes because I'm trying to start writing some text. And it's like this idea that, I guess, honesty, like some kind of like, as long as you are honest, like, that's what I call, I mean, honesty is what I call it's the same when I call that you are in a trance. I call it in a trance because at some point I see you're gone,
Mm.
and I see you in your eyes, for instance. It's very particular in your eyes because your eyes are gone. It's like if you're high, and that's something very particular that I understand at some point when you're gone. And it's literally how I see my friends or people when they get high. That's just at some point they're just in their trip, and that's beautiful, because it's an honest sharing experience. It's an honest transcendental shared experience that you're doing.
Yeah.
Mm.
So what did I say? Yeah, I think that kind of is not explained, but yeah, it kind of illustrates what's happening, and I do think that it's like frustration is also fine, and it happens because we're honest. Like we're not like putting trying to make something pretty, but it's just even if it's awkward, we try it. But yeah, I think it's a good
Right.
way. It's a good way to find our practice because I don't know. Like I don't want to refer to like a specific thing, but what happens often in like technology and dance is technology dictates the performance, and there's not like this like almost like zero uh, practice happening inside. Like if someone decides, like there's gonna be laser, there's gonna be a robot, there's gonna be something, and then you do the choreography. But how we do it is
So, yeah.
more different, right?
Like to reframe again what you were saying, because I'm putting two in a note, because I think I completely agree with you. So the technology dictates the performance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you expand? Can you expand again with this?
Um, yeah, I don't know, like I don't want to say anything specific, but it,
Please, be
especially
specific.
if it becomes like a large production, then they have budget
I
and
I
they
mean,
have
that's the kind of things that is like, as because it's just the place that we are. As soon as if you work with a robot, like the production by itself is massive. Let's say if you put like a big arm, robotic arm, just the production is massive because of that. And in terms of safety, I mean, on all the terms of what it needs to put the robot in the stage. So then it just changes completely the framework, right?
yeah. And even if it's a projection as well, like
Yeah.
if it's a projection, then
Oh.
it
Yeah.
it just like stays there as a huge installation in the on the stage, and there's
Right.
not much you can do with the body.
Right.
And also
I
like
mean, but I don't know how you see it, for example, but when I worked then a designer for like a choreographer, then it's like, it's in a way it's easy, kind of like I would say it's easy for me to like work in projection or something with like, I don't know, like it will be more often like projection or some sensors. Then it will be easy in the sense of like, if the choreographer comes to me with some idea, basically he wants to use something in his idea. So he's
mm,
not coming to me to develop the idea with me, because anyway, if he come, it didn't happen so far that somebody comes to me with this. No, so not yet, because it's me the one who's proposing. When I'm doing this collaboration, it's me the one who proposes. But if I'm being the designer, let's say if I have a client, then it happens that basically for me it's easy, because we are in the stage of like amazement. So then if I just know what is the production, if there's budget, I just want to boom the stage to give what he wants, and just make the boom, because basically when he comes to me is with the boom idea, so just I give the boom idea back.
right. Yeah. But I think my point is that it's just like so hard to like. Okay, you make videos and you choreograph or work with movements, so it's how two things. Well, you know two things, but if you're like choreographer and like trying to collaborate with a video artist or vice versa, then it's just a mess because there's no it's not a collaboration, but it's just like two things on the same stage, and like
Mm.
it's just hard to like find what why there are two things, like more than just a concept. I mean, concept wise, probably like people have interesting ideas, but
Yeah.
in terms
Yeah.
of like again practice, they don't practice with that. You know, they have the video and they have the choreography. They practice separately, and then they just put it together.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
they have some
Yeah.
cues,
Yeah.
but that's it.
Yeah, I think it's, yeah, I think maybe that's, you're referring to this idea like often. So I guess now I'm getting this. When you mention about this idea of practice, is like what you said is like, if you, because what we do, you know, let's say if I'm the choreographer, then I practice my choreography, or if I'm the video maker, I practice my video making, and and apart to pull your skills as a piano maker will do every day. But then once you go to the stage, the practices are not cohabited normally. Like, just you put them together, and that's what I mean. That's what we see, no, normally in productions, is like they come together, and there is one and the service of the other one.
Mm.
And like, let's say, in the way who I have experienced so far is like, when as a client, a client comes, and then I will just give back something. So basically, is then they want something technological in the dance piece. So then it's just, they're not there, they just want my practice to put it inside of the framework. So it will be dance, and then the video projection of what I'm doing will be inside there. But there is no this mix,
Right.
there is no flow, mixing of the practice.
Yeah. Like for example, it could be like practice like as a workshop or something that video artists and dancers. I think that's kind of the choreographic coding lab, but it was they're not trying to do that, but maybe they wanted to have a ground for that kind of things to happen. So yeah, like it could be like these people with two different expertise come together in a dance studio and they do something, and it can become like a workshop for other people that you kind of get the idea of how to work with these two things at the same time, or you
Yeah,
don't do it. I mean, it can be that the
but that's,
practice is like it's not gonna work together. I don't know.
because I think I want to interrupt you there, because I think that's important as well. I mean, this that I think that's different. So because we have so far this idea, no, like, so we have, when you have practices, separate practices, and let's say in traditional theater or contemporary dance, when you have like basically dance, and then you have the video or some technology inside, it still is dance, and then you have the other practice inside. There is not a really something, there's trying to become one thing. It's just, you basically hire the service of the designer of the whatever it is, to put the piece inside of the choreographic piece. But then, so that's one thing that we define. The other thing that you were referring, that's what I slow you down, is this idea, let's say, of the choreographic coding lab, when they're trying to work like with from a very good concept, a very good approach, which is very horizontal in that, yeah, I put two types of practices together, and then they should try to make something together. But then what we see often is, what it happens after is not a common result, but instead of that, an engineer or a design product that is like, we develop the solution for this, but there is not a piece, you know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
different because, yeah.
Well, I'm actually interested like how you like categorize into two things. Like on one hand, it's about the theater, and one thing is the let's say choreographic coding lab kind of idea. But I'm not a theater person, so I don't know like, for example, like what do people do as a lighting designer? Like what do they like? How they do they learn it? Like because it's very specific to the theater, and it's
Yeah,
specific to
yeah,
like
yeah.
maybe like contemporary dance has its own thing, like it and like where is it coming from? But it's also like it's nothing that is well, it's very specific to dance, and they have learned over time how to work with dancers in a way, like well, not how to work with, but how what would be
I think that would be more how to work for, because that's the thing. There's the kind of like categorization that I'm
true.
trying to establish in order to evolve the conversation. Because it's like, and then what we talk is like what, because we are talking about like classical theater, let's say, including. I mean, when I'm talking about classical theater, I'm talking about contemporary dance inside of the theater. Basically, I'm referring the space of performance where people go and sit and watch a show. Um, there's scenic art, and then I think is just so what we are defining here is in different things that I think that are completely valuable for what you're trying to do, because we are not, I think we are not in either boat, because I think we are alienate somehow. We have to define that after maybe after we're trying to get out of this base framework that is. So then you have in one hand define it that the classical theater uh, hire the services from other fields, other practices, let's say video practices, sound practices, technological practices. If you talk in terms of like theater that wants to incorporate technology in it, it's still the framework is theater, and they just hire the services to put it in as blocks
Sure.
in it for some reason. And so that's one framework, and that is classical, and is the one that like I know, and that's the classical. And the other one is like that we are trying to define, that is very interesting, that is the proposition of the choreographic coding lab, or trying actually to put the two practices and together and try to develop something. Therefore, like the for the choreographic coding lab is not defined before a prior as a performance, no either as a practice, but as a something that it might happens. And that often that's what I'm trying to reframe as a problem. That is often what it happens just end up being close to the point of view of an engineer or a designer, which is
Hmm.
solve the problem.
I see.
And they also that so I think there are two aspects of like kind of a framework, and the other one, the there is like a third aspect, that is I think where we are, that is we are proposing a practice when we are based on technology. Dance is in there, but we don't know what we're doing. And we are just practicing while we are there. So we define, like now it's very defined. We have a framework of 1 hour, and we define like it doesn't matter what is happening during that hour, we are practicing no matter what happens. We have no internet connection. You are in somebody else's house. Like no matter where are we try to make something happen in that framework, and everything that happens in between, it's okay, because we are not defining yet if it's good or not, because we don't know if what we're doing.
Right. And yeah, and I think that's missing most of the time. Like people think that they know what they're doing, but in fact, it's not, or it's just like happens randomly that some collaboration works, some doesn't because just it's just random and
Yeah.
you know yeah I don't know. This is really hard, but like I think it was when I did the performance, like this solo thing with the live coding and all these things in May. After that, I just
Yeah.
thought like it's just ridiculous that I was not like doing this kind of thing over and over because it's also like it happened online. I don't know how many people are watching, like 20 or 30 people, I think, and I can just do it by myself. Like I don't need that kind of institution. I mean, they're nice. They are also like artist run uh, place, and I do think that they are really doing interesting things. But like I don't have to
Yeah.
like schedule something in 3 months. We were gonna do this with this institution, and we do this on YouTube live streaming. Like it's just like doesn't make sense. If I want to do it, then
Right.
maybe we just do it every week and see how it goes because I think that's the easiest way, and
Yeah.
we learn a lot from that. Yeah.
I think I mean one of the I mean because like so what I'm trying to do is like here because maybe I'm putting this in document. So like one is like one point is like we define classical theater theater plus hiring technology, let's say technology. And the second one is like the framework of the choreographic learning lab, where like the idea is very philanthropical. I think the idea is great. So with this idea of putting two practices together and see what happens. What happened, but equals that normally what it happens is like you end up coming back to the engineer point of view or the designer point of view.
Because it's
Point
just,
of
it's not really merging, but they're just in the same space.
But I think you know why it happens a lot now too. I think it's because the people that you bring there, their background is more technological than dance wise. So, I don't know how you have experienced that.
I mean, so in that sense, like I was in 3 times in choreographic coding labs, and I think two of them were like that in a sense that basically like they are coders and dancers, and they just like don't talk to each other because it's just like
Yeah,
it's just hard. They don't know what to do with each other, and
but it's
they
hard.
end up like
Yes.
on the fifth day, it's just dancers are talking to each other, coders are like doing something on their own, and it's just doesn't work. But there was
No.
once I think that was in Amsterdam. That was really interesting. I was because of the first experience in New York, it didn't work well. I thought I need to like talk to more people and maybe like bring people together or something. And I tried a lot in Amsterdam, and that worked well. Um, like I invited two dancers, friends, and I connected them to well, one of them to a video artist that I met at the CCL, and they did something interesting out of her video, like dance pieces that were filmed, and the video artist made some generative representation of it. It's not just like because it's cool, but it's there was a idea that the dancer Janine, she wanted her piece is called Screensaver, and the work is actually um, it's like 5 or 6 dancers. They move really slowly. That kind of makes a pattern inspired by Screensaver. I think it's a Mac screensaver. Like this thing that's slowly
Yes.
moving.
Yeah.
So like the choreography is inspired by that, and then I talked to this other video artist. He does like video jockey, and he knows how to do like generative. Um, yes, he makes that kind of aesthetics from videos. So he actually took her video
Yeah.
and made it into a screensaver like video, which was really cool because I think that's what should happen. It's not just there's a cool video artist and interesting choreographer that just work together, but there has to be some kind of context in it. And
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that kind of thing happened. Like there are a couple of other artists, dancers collaborating, and it was really fun. Like people just met for the first time. They actually work together for something interesting, or just fail, and that's also interesting. Um, but yeah, but I think that's really like a special case in
Yeah.
CCL because it's not always like that.
But I think it's beautiful. Like, and I think what we should do is like more get out of the. I mean, now that we established that is that. So we established that we have like these two basic common grounds that we understand. One is classical theater, and the other one with the CCL. There is a very beautiful approach, philanthropical, that actually it gives a possibility actually for us to meet, and So, and the other one that we are doing is, and that I think that we should spend more time there. I'm more interested in that is like the best practices. And what I found relevant what you were saying is, um, this idea of like the context versus the content, because the context, I mean, both are so valuable when you said in terms of when going back to like the reference, like when you go back, let's say to a spectrum like the CCL, then when the context is given, and then there's a good spirit to work towards something that is not really clear, then the content it just appears. Then the content appears, and I mean, and then this idea of the context and the content are being, like it will be, it will be changing constantly depending of the
Mm.
project. Um, but so I'm referring that in our practice because we are very very I think we come from the context basically, which it may be which actually maybe it represents like the nature of the practice because it's comes from technology. Like with all the technology so far we have no, that's something actually that I will put in the text here. We have one limitation like that is very clear, that is like without internet, uh, or let's say without technology, without tech or practice doesn't exist at this moment. At this moment, without technology or practices is not existing, and I think that's very very clear. It doesn't exist, regardless if the internet or something, because then we solve with the iPhone, like technology is there.
Mm.
So and in a way, like then the technology in a way is like the context, which is very close to the engineering. This is very just, it's just context, but then the dance comes there, and then I see the dance as the content. Like the dance and the idea about dance, like the choreography part of the doing of the practice is what I see the content. So what I'm trying to refer, maybe in other words, is like I see like the framework. I mean, all this technological thing that we spend there. If I see my screen, I have like open like MadMapper, BDMX, like all these things at the same time, like light smoke machines what I was doing in that place in the chapel, all this very complex setup. For me, it's just that's all the it gives all this context. It gives possibility to the content to appear. That's what I was referring to. Like just lately, I can let my frustration trying to control all this setup
Mm.
allow my body to move. And that's pure. So that purity comes from the content but not the context. But I need the context. I need the technological context. Without the technological context, I cannot exist. I mean, or you cannot exist as well in the practice. So it's like the relation. I'm trying to like reframe basically that I see context as the technological frameworks that we have, and the content as concept as the dance itself, as the choreographic aspects. I see the two. That's the way how I see it in my understanding on the practice.
But
I don't know how
that's really
I don't know how
interesting
you think
because, like,
about.
for me, when you say content, it's also about videos and different effects, and like it's very technological things as well. And I mean, of course, movements are uh, content, but I mean, it's a bit like not cheesy, but it's a bit like I don't want to say it this way, but also like body is in a way it's technology, and then it's kind of
Yeah.
a boundary let's not go to that direction, but
No,
um,
I mean, I think that let me maybe just like because I would like to hear you actually like what you really think. I'm not trying to sell you my point of view. Just like I think this is the spaces that I really like to. So this is my understanding. This is my understanding. This is how I see this. So I would like to like just if you think it's like that, just like it's okay. And
yeah, I don't know if well, it's hard to like give um, comments directly because I think I still having hard time understanding your kind of the way you're using content and context, because of
What
course
I'm
it's
what, let me
no, 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 but
let
I
me
do, I think I do understand in a way, so I'll try to start from there. But
okay.
for me, like I just don't like to work with technology in general, because for me it's something that doesn't work. I know it's weird to say that from me, but
What
hmm?
like by itself? You mean technology by itself, or what do you mean?
Yeah, because like I always fear that something won't work, and you know,
Yeah, okay. So then we are talking about account. That's coming from path, but this idea of accountability and
no, no, no,
decolonization.
but anyways, like if we have um, like any other like technical problems, like it's not just the Wi-Fi at
Yeah,
the path, but also maybe
I
your
don't know.
computer dies or my computer dies, or
Yeah, that's what I
you
refer with
have
that. Yeah.
power outage, then it doesn't work.
Yes,
But still, I can
yes. You cannot
dance.
trust. Yeah, you can dance, but then you cannot exist in the common practice.
No, and that's really interesting to me, because I was always thinking that I want to work with dance without technology, because that I kind of felt that's something that I should aim for, because it's I don't know, somehow I thought it's really great that I don't rely on technology, and I just like express myself with body. Okay,
Hmm.
uh, but then it's really interesting, because if I work with you, then okay, we can say that we move together at 9 p.m. and somehow maybe we don't have internet, but let's move together. That's also possible, and people from decades ago, they're doing that already.
Right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, and so what's the point? I don't know, but now like we're dependent on the technology. Yes, that's true, and but at the same time you have the smoke machine, or like video mapping, which is something you decided to use. Like I didn't ask you to do it, for example, but it's a constraint or the context that you brought in, and why. And well, I'm not saying you
Because I,
shouldn't, but like how do
because
you
I have a
choose those
tablet.
things? Because that
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But
really
okay, so because then I think when we are talking here, like it's about purity. That's what I call purity. What is pure inside of the practice? What are the elements that we cannot take away for the practice to happen? You see what I mean? Like
yeah.
when I
uh,
refer about purity.
so yeah, I think yeah, that's true, but also yeah, but actually this is a good question, because if we say that we work on Jitsi or Light Lab, that doesn't mean we have to, like, for example, you don't have to use smoke machine, I don't have to use Hydra, but we do it
Right,
anyways. And
right.
why? And should we continue doing it? Should we try to look for something else? I think that's part of the practice. Um, yeah, but I think for me, it's always really interesting to think about, like, why are we trying to use this certain technology, and why didn't you why couldn't you get away from it, or why didn't you choose other tool?
Yeah.
But it's also like
I
always connected to the content as well, because if it's something totally
how
new, then you have to
how how
start from
how,
zero
how
content.
reframe the content, how you mix it with the content, how you see it.
Oh,
Because maybe I would like this separation. Maybe I would like to change in my because I have in my text here like content, no context versus concept. I will say it better than content.
hmm.
I will say like I will frame the concept instead of content. So I would like to hear what you refer about content
Oh, to
because for me
content.
it seems that yeah 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 now I'm kind of erasing that I'm replacing that from concept, because my context, see, my concept is like my context is very, my background is very BJ wise. So then my content basically are just BJ loops or generative videos that I'm gonna create to video map.
Sure. So wait, who we
How
have?
you refer about how, so because you were referring about content, so maybe
Yeah, content. No, because the
the content.
content is highly dependent on the context that what you have,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And also your experience, because if you're like new to certain tool, then you have to kind of start from scratch in terms of content.
All right.
We
Okay.
can also say it as a vocabulary. Like if you're familiar with certain context, then you have more vocabulary or content, which is
Yeah.
not bad. But concept is, it's always kind of bullshit because you can just always write it down afterwards.
But so that's what I mean, like, so because like I will reframe again. So like I have now in my in the, when I said like, so one, the classical theater, second CCL, third best practices, and then I put like then context slash context with content, because it's like in a way content is a consequence of the context. Then I say like versus the concept. When I put it there, concept for me is the dance, is what is happening in it, and what I will call purity. What I will say when we transcend, and when you and me are gone in what we are doing. Then for me is that the concept. One like idea as well of classical understanding of the concept is be like we are writing or what we are doing now. We are trying to use rationally thinking in order to conceptualize what we're doing, right? That's one rational way of thinking about concept, writing the text for an application or just making sense of what one do. But in the way how I present this idea of concept and are doing, when I say like context, content versus concept, is that I see the concept close to purity, the
The
purity and the
concept.
existential, the concept as the
Yeah,
purity and as the yeah, as the purity, the what it is actually, what it in what in what at the end is what we're aiming for, that it just happens, when just you transcend and you are happy what you're doing, and it's just the time pass flying, and then just 1 hour is gone. And there is not too much rationalization at that moment, because from my understanding is because we have been practicing so much, you don't have to refer about the content, context anymore, because it's just being settled in your body. So you don't have to refer about how do I open a window, how do I do this. At that moment you are just in flow, what you will call in English flow. You are flowing, and you are just in what I was trying to refer as concept. You are just dancing, you are just being pure, and then sharing the purity of your doing.
I see. And I think what I'm not happy with, well, like for me, uh, from not happy with what I do in terms of then I think, well, I think it's somewhere between the content and the context because I'm still not sure. Like, for example, I use Hydra to do some effects on the video, which I don't know if that's it kind of blocks the flow. Like, if I just code, then I can just code, but I code and then I go back to the movement, which is totally wrong to me
How come?
because it's just
How you see that, how you see that moment between you are dancing and going back to coding?
because that's like the conscious decision I have to make that okay, I'm gonna code or I'm gonna go back to the movement, and then it's not something that can be that can happen together. It's totally separate practices.
Well, but in I don't know, maybe if the way how I see it, because I'm just trying to put an example from dance, for instance. When you're dancing, like let's say I have a technical background, so then when I'm dancing, one of the reasons that I stopped dancing is because my technical background blocked me from the purity, basically. So it's the same, basically. I will feel doing the same that if I stop being pure and then just stop on coding, because then I will be just coding with my body. Now I will use sauté and Turanler. Now I will do movements from capoeira. Now I'll use the technology, like the technical tools that I know. And then at some point I will left that again and just let my body move. So basically then I will be as well being between being in the flow and then going to technology.
Within the
Going to the
dance.
tech. Yeah.
Yeah, which I think I don't have that much technology in my body, but I do agree with that because I'm not moving randomly, but I do make conscious decisions. And when I think I'm doing something repetitive, then I start to think, what do I
And
want? And
and it's not the same that framework, the one you said, like I stopped moving and now I'm coding, in terms of decision, in terms of like desiring, in terms of desire, and I wish to do something, then I do this. Don't you think is similar, like between the when you're dancing and are taking the decisions of dancing because you want to change, because you find a pattern of whatever, on when you're in the flow of dancing, and on the other hand when you are dancing and when you're coding, basically when you stop the flow, right?
mm, I think it's an interesting question, and I think they are interesting analogy, and there are some similarities, but for me it's very different because at least for me when I move and start to think about different patterns or different rules of moving, it's something that I can adjust through my body. I can try with my body and see if that feels right or not, or whatever. Maybe if it feels not right, but maybe I just go with it. It's something that happens within myself. But if I want to code, then it's like motor wise, it's totally different. Like I'm not like using my whole body anymore, and I have to code, and then
Yeah.
I have to look at the screen. I have to think about, well, okay, think about the rules. That's the same, but it's very specific. I have to be very precise. No, I have to be very accurate about what I do, and um, and
But this
also,
precision, I think this precision comes as well from assumption of terms of like we are dealing constantly with this in this framework of like in any other place in life, uh of desiring, like the desires, like what do I want to do, like the image of what I'm projecting I will like to do, then because I will like to do something, I decide to take the corresponding actions in order to achieve the corresponding goal. And the um yeah, I don't know what I was trying to say with that.
okay, hmm. I don't know. I have to think about this, and I think this is a really interesting question because I never thought about comparing the move, let's say the movement pattern and the coding. But in, in intuitively, I think they are fundamentally different, but I don't know why. I cannot explain it right now.
No, but I mean I agree with you that are fundamentally different, from a rational perspective. But I think in the order of actions, and then going back to this idea of like how you reflect in the doing, with the purity of the act, then I think they come from different frameworks. Because then because one will be, I don't know, in a way it's like one, you if you start categorizing things, then you will start saying that one will be more pure or less pure than the other one, right? And then it's up to what you want or what I want at certain moment.
But what do you mean by pure?
Well, pure. What I mean with purity is like this, the flow. What I mean with flow, like when we're trying to get into that flow, right? Trying to get into that transcendental state when you're getting high from what you're doing.
I see. Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I thought about something and I forgot. But yeah, I think it's also something that I feel always kind of feels so uncomfortable when I code. I think it's maybe it's
Really?
different kind of flow that I experience that I do enjoy that kind of flow of coding, but at the same time it feels like something is totally wrong. And when I move I don't have that. Like when I move it's just like it's maybe it's the purity that I experience, you know. I
Yeah.
never think that it's okay, this is wrong because I don't know why, but
Yeah. No, no, but I think I see myself in your words because, but I think it has to be. That's what I think that our practice is so. I think that's why we're still doing this, and we are hooked because in a way it seems like a drug to me. You know, like when I was in my deadlines and I could not do it for 1 week, I was when I talked to you, I really felt the empty space, almost like, oh my god, I want to be in the space again. It's like a drug space there
mm,
for liberation. And then when you refer of this space of flowing, then in my context and with my setup is like although then I will code but it's not that much. I will, because the setup is so big I was doing there, then it's just at some point I will just start flowing and then I will just move between MadMapper and BDMX and all these
mm,
things, and then I will move between the siphons and then I feel I'm in the flow. While if I'm dancing, then I will feel more awkward. I will often will feel that I'm doing something that is not right because I have more knowledge there to choose in my motion. So what I'm trying to refer is like I feel what you feel when you're coding when I'm dancing, because maybe my vocabulary in dancing is bigger, and I think it could be the same with you. When you're coding, your vocabulary is bigger. So then you feel that it's wrong, that you should be doing something better because you know you can do something better. And then you're confronting again with this idea of desires that I'm trying to bring into the conversation, the desire of doing better.
mm. Well,
Better what? I don't know.
yeah. I mean, I think that's an interesting aspect. I don't fully agree with that, but I mean, it is certainly a point. But to me, it's more about the nature of movement and coding. But I think that's what you said is also quite. It does contribute to some extent. It's becoming academic or something. Um, I don't know.
Oh, but I think it's cool. What we're trying to do here is like, you know, we're trying to advance in a dialogue, basically, in a
Yeah,
reflection
yeah,
of what we're doing.
yeah.
So it's like we feel that we're doing good, and I think in order to like I guess explore more, we need to. One of the comments I remember that Daniel said, like in that email, he was referring about methodologies, which is something that you do really when you get into really academic studies or when you actually want to extend. uh, I think that's the lacking, for instance, of the CCL is like, because there is no more time than the CCL, there is no time to really study about the methodologies, how the things are happening. And I think that one of the things that Daniel said in that email that was so I still remember is that he was saying like, make sure, in a way he was saying like, you guys make sure to like to point out the methodology, how are you doing things. And I think that's what we are trying to do here
Yeah,
when we try to extend the dialogue.
yeah. I mean, it's true. Like CCL is more like a party. You know, it's just like, it's 5 days, but it's like, you know, people come together and do something interesting, and that's it, which is good and bad because it's fun, it's so intense, but you don't kind of leave anything behind almost because it's just, you know, it's a party and you don't have to leave anything. But there's like
Right.
so many interesting things happen, and I was reading some text from like more like notes from past CCLs, and there are some things that has to be maybe revised, polished, and should be published somewhere because, or like not published, but make it public because certainly like some people would be interested in that kind of thing, especially like maybe it's not really like universal thing for working with technology and dance, but at least it's a record of what happens if people with these expertise come together and spend a few days together, what kind of discussion will happen, which is, you know, totally valuable documentation of that kind of case study.
Yeah. I think like because I saw something that you post in the CCL in Facebook. Are you asking for to having maybe like something about it? Like if there is some text or something about CCLs? Because it was about this you proposed something about the Note
Ah,
20,
yeah,
that
the
is the
last
one.
one I posted.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So, so yeah, this is something I also wanted to talk about because I'm so where to start with. So at the festival, Node Forum, basically now the plan is that I will be hosting events in that in their Mozilla hubs. I don't know if you know that VR online space where you can access from the browser and everyone can
Can
just
you like Mozilla Hubs link now, and then I just put it here to check it out.
like that one they haven't finished it yet, but you can just search for Mozilla hubs and find something. Um,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, okay, but so you were saying that now they want you to like more host some events within your activities there.
yeah, and so will have like some discussions, and these meetups are open to anyone. Like you don't have to sign up for the festival because you know the festival pass cost like 50 euro or something. But for this thing in Mozilla Hubs, you don't like it's free, and we'll have discussions. We'll have meetups. I'm trying to do a Hydra meetup as well, and there's gonna be well, I think I want to do some kind of practice with you, like how we do it, either in Mozilla
Mm,
Hubs or we can do it on Jitsi or Live Lab. I think that's not a problem.
okay.
What else? And maybe some kind of exhibition in that space. And for the
Maybe I think could be interesting. I don't know if you could, because I'm sure like there should be people who will be interested in from the CCL in maybe contribute in yeah, basically talking about methodologies, because I think a point that we are that I think is very interesting and is referring again to Daniel, and maybe I will like, maybe it could be interesting as well to maybe involve Daniel to
yeah
talk from his own experience, but is since in a way we don't know, for instance, like we have a good example, this is a proof of concept, like where we're referring is like there's a problem with dance and technology when you're trying to put the two practices together, in the sense that we basically, in order to, that's coming from our practice, in order to get to something that is moving, you need to get into the flow, and basically it means like to refuse a lot of your desires and things that you would like to do that are cool or not. So you have to basically don't know in a way what you're doing, you need to be in the doing. And because of that, I think it's necessary then not too much to think, oh, we create the new application that has a new better motion tracking of solutions. But I think it will be more relevant to talk about the, even not the process, but actually the methodologies, how you end up coming up with something like that.
mm,
So in that sense, I think could be interesting maybe to refer to the CCL and see if there is somebody with, I'm sure like people who worked before, they could have extend part of their doing, while maybe not the result as such, but I'm sure they should have in their own archives, like as concepts, as methodological concepts, if you want to call it, like what happened, kind of like as a diary, what happened. Because what I think could be interesting for the field is to have these insights in terms of what are the methodologies that have been applied, what people already tried, to not start from zero, because that's basically what we're doing.
Yeah, it's true. Um, so for that, I think I asking Maria Idova. She's well, what she does is not so relevant. I would say like she does VR. She makes VR pieces with motion capture data. So and she's like also part of the festival. She's presenting her work, so that's why we're in touch, and she's gonna give some insight to yeah like working with VR. But definitely like it's more interesting if we have some people who's more into like how do I say performing performing arts. I don't know what like I don't know what how to frame it. Um, of course, Daniel.
Yeah,
I'm interested in like Daniel and Lisa what they're doing. I think it's
yeah.
could be interesting to.
Because I mean, one thing that I think for sure could work, but there's just a completely different work. That is so much work. Is like one could approach practices, open practices, like say performance practices, or let's say dance practices, next to other kind of practices. They are a lot. And then one what could do is like try to create an analogy when you just work from abstractions in terms of technology. um, let's say like one of the things that they were working with Lisa and Daniel, if I'm not wrong, is like they were setting up this meeting where people were like there and they were sharing, and then sometimes they were moving. So I don't know exactly what they were doing and what is the framework, but as an example, could be one could take the work of trying to abstract the methodology of the work, and then just kind of put it into a technological context, as an abstraction, because that's already a methodology of way of work that they already tried for a long time, that they found it was. I mean, there is so much work already around that idea that
Sorry,
that
what do you mean
is
by
just
abstraction?
abstraction is meaning, let's say for instance, in that I'm trying to put it in computational terms. Like if you say like, then you have like the work they're doing, so then where they propose to be to have entities sharing a space, where some of these, so these entities, they are framework, they have a framework where there are certain movements that can be perceived in a frame, like seeing a screen, smaller screens, and then there is some possibilities based on propositions for per day, like what could be possible for these entities to output within the wrapper, the container. So that's an idea for, that's an abstraction for it. That's not a way to like to analyze and try to put more in something that can be replicated into a computational system. um, but that's what I reframe with that. Like that could be possible with dance practices, mixing with other things. But again, and that's what how we start the whole enunciation. That will take so much work, because it means like one needs to do the whole abstraction in terms to first understanding for one, and then to put it into another language. So I think like the
Because you
easiest
mean
will be
like
trying
this
to find.
practice is not really like well articulated in the first place. It's something that they develop through, let's say, practice, and then they have to kind of self how to say it yeah like analyze themselves what they're doing. That's the
Yeah,
abstraction.
no, I mean what I'm saying with it in terms of no, I'm saying with abstraction is like just to abstract what they're doing actually is not technologically wise is not super interesting in terms of, let's say, they're not working with so many other complex systems, let's say. But then in terms of like putting abstract what they're doing and putting into something that is can give more insights for a technological background could be more interesting instead of all the sociological and human aspects of being the people in this context and with all the human thing will be more relevant to abstract that into something that becomes more computational language that can be replicated through entities in a system. That's what I mean with with abstraction. Like to abstract, let's say their context is very social, so it's very human, and I think in terms like to make it that conversation relevant for a field like technological field will be more relevant in terms to use the methodology if one can do the curatorial process of abstract what is interesting there in terms of technological use more than the social aspect. Um,
Hmm.
uh, yeah. Yeah, and but that means anyway like then one has to take all the work to do this basically translation and try to propose, because it still will be a curatorial process of proposing an idea from an existing framework. I think ideally what I'm trying just to say is like that could happen, that could work. But then what I think could be easier is just if we find people who already have are being very constrained by technological frameworks. Let's say a good example is us, because we, for good or bad, we define. I mean, we end up getting very complicated in things.
Hmm.
So then, I'm saying like this example of us could help a lot because then we use a lot of system, no? Then you use Hydra, we use all these kind of things. We use the streaming, we convolute the video synthesis, all the latency, like all different softwares, all these kind of things. So it's very by itself. You don't have to translate, or you don't need to abstract the methodology or the content that is being created there to try to just give it as raw material for the field to see like, okay, there is this thing happening here. And so I think what could be interesting is like if to find other people that have let's say that's what I was referring like with the CCL, and see if that some people have some archives on their own doing back in time, or
Hmm.
in terms of methodology we're talking about here is what I think some point I think I can say from this conversation that it seems very clear to me that is interesting not only for us but more for the field as such is this idea of the methodology,
Sure.
which is the Daniel, and he's saying from his own experience, and he has been working in that for a while. Because in that sense then you can really offer more than a solution in terms of like design. I give you the better motion tracking device. Instead of doing that, that's something that we do often. Then instead of that, then you are proposing actually just you're giving access to information about methodologies, with which we don't have so far in terms of like let's say performance and technology. It's just something that's being written right now.
Yeah, I feel it's. I'm still not fully. I mean, I understand literally, but not conceptually. But I can just like talk about like what I wrote in the Facebook group. Basically, so where did I where should I start? So we do the events in the Mozilla hubs, and one of the discussions I want. Okay, I talked about Maria. She's working with VR, which I don't know if it's how much relevant to us. Another thing I wrote in the group was about this thing called trackable qualities, which I think is really funny term to me. They always talk about this in the past CCLs. I think in the first CCL they came up with this idea of trackable qualities, and since then I think Scott or Florian, like running this CCL, they always introduce this idea to people, and people start to talk about what it is. It's basically what kind of quality you can extract from the trackable measure, like motion capture, or it can be like heart rate or whatever kind of bio sensing tracking device, and but like that gives you just numbers, and what kind of abstraction you can get from
But
that
when you,
idea or the signals.
but when you
Sorry.
when you talk about qualities, then qualities is something that is very human, no? It is like, I mean, as yeah, this quality is something that is not normally, no, like that's what it gives, like that's what maybe is like interesting as concept, is because it has the possibility to be interpreted in different ways, because a quality is something that you can, I mean, is not something that you will quantify per se. Like a person is happy, more happier, even though the measurement it is in the frame between being happy or happier, it means that you're happier than the happy person. So there's the quantity in there. Is a question of quality. I mean, it's more human. What I'm trying to say is more human, but that's what I found very very interesting from this thing.
Yeah, I sent you the link. It's it's still very. I think it's less human. Less. It's not as abstracted, but it gives like terms like center of mass, bounding box. That's really technical. Uh, Kinetic sphere, which may be a little bit more abstract. Um, I don't know. It's very technical, but like it becomes like there's like texture of movement, like thick versus soft, which is really more human. Like it's getting away from the numbers that you get from the sensors or groove,
Yeah.
which I think this is like this always comes back to like discussion back into discussion in CCLs, because it's somewhat easy to talk about because everyone has different kind of background, but if you work with dance and technology, this is something that you always face, with the um, yeah, like tracking, and what can you get from
Yeah,
tracking, and
yeah,
what do
yeah,
you do with the tracking.
yeah.
So is and there, like I think people try to make it more understand it systematically, which obviously it's not there yet, but they did try to make some effort to do that. And I think it's again, it's not like directly related to what we're doing, but I think it's kind of interesting thing to talk about if we have both like people from dance and people from technology. But again, it's like I don't know. I'm interested, but like I don't want to talk about the center of mass or bounding box, because it just like you know it just like makes no sense to talk about these things when you talk about trackable qualities. Uh, yeah, I don't know what you think.
No, I think that I think it's. What are you saying? Like you would like to propose of this in in Node 20?
Hmm.
Is the way how you're proposing that you're quite like,
Yeah,
thinking
so I want like
to bring this?
one session for this, because I was, to be honest, I was never really interested in this discussion, because it's just like kind of
It's very,
uh, it's just funny. But I think it's
you know,
just
I think that definitely will be a very, very, very interesting place where if you invite people from different fields, I mean, so then it's you as moderator. Then you make sure that you invite people like are like people who are just, let's say, pure theoretical, I don't know, dancers, or like pure like engineers, and to just try to put them together. Uh, then I think it will certainly something that it will be. Uh, I mean, this is the perfect framework for people, for a forum, for people to speak for hours, you know.
Yeah.
So I
But
think
also
it's
like
it will be
I'm
very
not doing like a
interesting.
panel discussion or anything. It's just like an informal discussion. So
But that could, I mean, but yeah, yeah, but like I see this is the kind of subjects that will be certainly valid in a
mm,
panel like Node. Like I would be certainly interested in seeing what people have to say about something that they call trackable qualities. It seems very, yeah.
I will
It's a
propose
very
this to
interesting.
Jan because I think she will. I think they will be
Yeah.
interested in doing this because so basically Node Node is run by the like there's overlap between Node and CCL, and Jan is who was running the CCL, and she's also director of this festival, and they all like they seem to be all really like this trackable qualities, although what I don't know what it is, and I might be able
But
to
then
get
when I
one
found
slot for the
what I
main
found
conference.
I think what I found interesting is like to um, invite people to the conversation that you try to establish, but then not necessarily people who are completely involved with the term,
Sure.
because then they have a more pure approach to it. What I think that will make
Pure or
the
less pure, I don't
conversation
know.
interesting. Yeah, yeah, because if you invite people who already are used to the term, they're just gonna patronize you,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
From like things, oh,
No, I mean, to
and
be
I think
honest,
that
like
will be.
I don't think there's not so many people who's really um, how to say there's no expert in this, and also like everyone has different kind of it's not some like there's no common ground for this trackable qualities, and everyone maybe like people have like different even like different terms for this kind of concept, which is interesting. Like also like we can maybe find a name for another new name for trackable qualities or whatever. Yeah, I'll think about it because I also want to hear what people think about this thing. And I'm always like skeptical of actually trackable qualities because like it's to me like the name itself seems so nonsense.
But that's what makes it interesting. Wait, I'm coming back. I'm just gonna go
Mm.
to the toilet for a sec.
Mm.
I'm a bit curious. A bit. So, is this Note 20 is gonna be completely online, or is gonna be a physical space?
Both, and I will be in Frankfurt for
Because
the.
because maybe because maybe I will be interesting to go there if I have the time.
Yeah, I mean it's gonna be in Frankfurt, and
Is
um,
which days are those? Is like in October.
October 2nd to 8th, and I can get you a ticket for the festival.
10. Uh, second to 8 in Frankfurt. Frankfurt. Okay, I'm gonna check, but I think I would like to go. If it's physical, I think I would like to go. That could be, but then we have to solve is the problem because then if we still we're doing we are gonna do the best practices. We need to isolate ourselves and being separate. And that would be very. But even that could be interesting.
I mean,
Just
like
like do just we
I
see.
heard this from Daniel and Lisa that they were like working together for I don't know like few years and like always remotely, and finally when they met to work together like in a residency or something, like they end up working in the same space but in a separate rooms because it's just like doesn't work to like move together in the same
I was
space.
I was thinking like that would be so. I mean, we cannot do that like in the same room. That's absurd. That was but I think that will be that. I think that could be a good place, a good moment we can meet. We can meet,
Yeah,
and then we could be interesting as well because then for me what was interesting for me to invite you to PAF is like because then we could have a framework like to basically what we do but extending, and then I think in Frankfurt as well then we could have find other things to talk about. I would like
yeah,
to
yeah,
hear your point of view. Like I like from this conversation that we have that I start seeing like we have, and that's more my intention, because maybe I speak so much. Then is that I would like to hear the many times that I don't try to convince you of my words, and I want to hear what you think. And then in these conversations, for instance, like then it's clear that because I'm as well, I'm trying to start developing a ground of concept that we can evolve. Then it's good that I hear like for you that you're saying, yeah, but this is not. I don't see like this, and this kind of things. I think I would like to hear more from we see a performance or something, and I would like to see what you think and what I think.
sure.
Yeah, so I think that will be a good thing. I'm gonna really check, and I think that could be. It's a week, no?
Hmm?
That could be. That is. I mean, it's a week. It's from the second to the eighth.
Yeah,
It's a week. Yeah, it's from Friday till Thursday.
yeah.
Um. Yes. No.
But of
No.
course, like you can just like we could be in and out. I mean, we can just be there partly, and we can find time to work together or not working together. I mean, in terms of
I have a
what.
bit
Uh,
out of the space and like I don't know, like that's I don't know how you see like, but my approach to dance was always like when I was dancing, then it was like when I was going to festivals, like always I found myself very bored very fast from dance, and because then I was in dance and let's say in dance festival and the impulse dance on these places, I was always like using couch surfing, because I didn't want it to be around of people who were speaking about dance all the time. Uh, and then so for me it was always that I was to Vienna. I was, even though I have a place like to stay there in the impulse, I was very happy to spend time with locals. And then because I was just I get and but that was my relation with dance. My relationship with dance always have been very conflicted. So it was like, oh no, no more dance, no more these people with this thing. It's like I just get out. I just want to feel myself in the city. Yeah, I was doing that. I don't know how you feel. Like, do you feel sometimes like overwhelmed by, let's say, technology or things that you normal? I mean, I'm saying from work in your personal life when you are in this environment, then everywhere that you go to one corner and there's somebody. Hello, what do you think about this and this and blah 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 blah. Don't you experience something similar in festivals in the past?
You mean in technical, like digital art?
Technology hearing.
Yeah, I'm trying to think like what would be a techno like how to say digital art equivalent of impulse dance, for example. But it's I mean that
It was
festival is like
very,
really special, so it's hard to like
very, yes, very hard.
yeah. But I do think. Wait a second. I think. I mean, if I like, let's say like when I'm in Tokyo, for example, like it's a bit like that, like but constantly, like I meet people who works with these digital art or like very specific to like coding environments, making videos and stuff, and then like I just hang out with those people or work with those people and just like it, I don't know how to say it. Yeah, like it's just like saturated, or I feel really like I cannot go anywhere, if I'm just hanging out with those
That's
people.
impulse dance. That was my feeling because the impulse dance is a small island. Then there's like you can go anywhere. So then it for me was drastically. I need to go to somebody else out and leave and sleep in the couch for a week.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, people say that like so. I did dance web in 2016, and people like everyone says like people like when I met they did dance web before, like this really intense 4 or 5 weeks, like every day you were doing workshop and watching performances, and they come back after a few years or like after 1 year, like they just like enjoy the festival so much because you just have so much more time and room to enjoy things, like not
Yeah,
just like taking workshop all day, which
yeah.
totally makes sense. I went back to the festival like the following year, and that was I yeah that was like different. Like I had time alone and or just like doing nothing in Vienna, which is quite nice. It's a nice city also, and
It's a beautiful
yeah,
to ride a bicycle, for instance. It's beautiful.
yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that yeah also that festival is a bit too much. It's really political or apolitical, and yeah, it's hard to be engaged full time, I think.
I mean, I think like any frameworks, like I don't know, for instance, like I don't know how it's Node, but like it's I mean path for instance the good example of this is, but that's more like my perception as well with the word. No, I think I position myself as an immigrant in different contexts as a translator. I think I expressed that idea to you at some point. Like I feel always like in an in between. I will call myself as an in betweener. I like to be the place, the person who facilitates. So because of that as well, like in a place for instance like path that is like the most anarchist in that sense, it's super anarchist in that sense. Even in a place like that, then I feel very constrained by the framework, and like and then I need to go out on bicycle, for instance. Like it's a place that is very warm and people are very doing they're trying to live in as a common, it's a commons place. and 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 that place I'm trying to say, like with that, for instance, with the impulse dance. Oh, okay, but that's no. Let's say the impulse dance is very. I always have these contradictions that are in your face, too strong, from to avoid it, to just look around. When we talk about, I don't know, neoliberalism from a place of privilege, place, for me it's difficult coming from a country like Colombia, for instance. Like when I hear somebody talking about poverty when they comes from Sweden, for me it's difficult to just swallow and stay in the conversation. So, and that was more in the past, or either I have to generate a conflict where people will get uncomfortable, or I need to take space and then go out because I need to breathe. And that's the way how I feel with frameworks, privileged places. So in the impulse dance, for instance, like you see, like people are talking about neoliberalism and post-colonialism and all these kind of things. But it's easy. I mean, it's easy just to find the time to think when you don't have 5 kids and you are not poor and being killed in the corner, things like this. I don't know. I mean, I'm saying because I'm privileged as well. I'm coming from a medium high class in Colombia that I could go to university. Not everybody can go there, stuff like that. So I don't experience this kind of things, but I come from a place where these things are happening. So then because of that, then I feel more sensible as well. This
Of course.
subjects.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, I don't know about Node. Like, it's also, it's run by German people, and um, it's a bit also like, how do I say, I don't know. I've never been to that festival. Like, I heard of it a lot. I know like many friends are presenting there. Also, I know Jan, who's directing the festival because she's running CCLs. Um, yeah, I don't know. But it's more like kind of conference, and it's also like run by people who develop who are developing VVVV. I don't know if you know this.
But does machine have BBBB like this code node based
Yeah, the patching
programming?
tool. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So they're running it. So they have like a bunch of workshops. So yeah, it's very technical um, background, I would say, and but also they talk about like I don't know if you know what's his name, Julian Oliver. He's doing like very political work in digital art. Like he's like about like how to say like climate change and stuff.
Okay.
Um, and I think this festival, this edition, they are kind of having like a lab format for like discussing these issues from
Technology
digital art.
and ecology. Yeah, I read the 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 heading,
Yeah,
and I found it like a complete. I mean, I completely agree with this thing. I having some this conversation with my girlfriend like some days ago about yeah, basically that. Now basically the same framework, like how the place that we are being taken because of because we wanted technology to help us to basically advance to go from point A to B, and then now we are here, but then we realize there is so much damage that we're doing to the planet. So, and how the makers can think about it and do something from the practice itself.
mm,
And I think I mean, I think it's totally. I mean, this is the place that we are. No, that's the place that we are. And there are some people who are thinking like more like if I think for instance in path where I see people from different practices, many of those coming from performance practices, they try to do approaches, their ecological approaches, maybe not directly in terms of like with the planet, with the plants, but then in terms of like sociological or anthropological inclusion, or like thinking around how to make better basically the
mm,
place that we live. Um, yeah, uh,
yeah. I mean, I think I'm a bit tired to, well, like not tired of talking, but I'm tired to talk about these things, so I'll skip that. But and also like there's also again it's just like what you talked about impulse stance. Like for example, like I don't want to like criticize too much, but Julian Oliver, he's working a lot from digital art to like well basically he wants to change the world in terms of climate change and all these things, but like he's also really privileged, and like he says like we should boycott Google for example, but because it's funny, like my supervisor said like he's basically Julian Oliver is like a technological vegan or whatever, like for example we can not use Google, but then that because you have access to
I
different
like
tools.
that term. I like the
Yeah, like
technological
it's
vegan. I like
basically
that
that,
term.
you can get like good
Yes,
stuff
yes, yes,
from like
yes.
vegan product because you have money or you have, you can accept that somehow.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the same thing that is happening with the corona. Like for countries, it's not a problem for a rich person like to take distance, right? It's not a
Yeah,
problem to be in your mansion or go to your beach house, to your lake house, and
yeah,
stay there for a lockdown. Of course, there's not a problem if you're privileged, but if you're not, then there's a problem because you have to be within the framework. So, yeah, if somebody said like just fucked up the whole system, yeah, you can go to your chalet.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, um, yeah, I don't want to like start complaining about these things, but
Yeah, then we can wrap up.
yeah, we should. But I want to come back to this. I want to say something about Martin. Like I was reading his, like the book you sent me, and like the one he edited,
Well, which one?
the movement research.
The movement, which one? Like movement research. That was the last one. Okay.
It's
The first one is like dance 2.0, post dance 2.0,
oh
and the second
okay,
one is movement research.
okay, yeah. I just like started reading like a
I can
few.
I can send you as well. Like I don't know.
I don't know if I got the other one. Anyways, but I kind of, I mean, of course, like it's like written by many dancers, so I agree, or I found something interesting in some of them, and I found like bullshit about some of them, and but then it's really nice, like how he like that he did this, and then I remember that when I was at Impulsance, I saw him. I mean, of course, he's always at this festival, and I mean, I saw his piece, but also I remember seeing him taking workshop, and I think he was just like taking a bunch of workshops, like different workshop every day, and just like trying things, which I found is really interesting. Like I still like I don't know if I like him or not, but like it's really interesting how he does it.
Hmm. Yeah, Martin is like I mean because for instance, like now I was in PA for 2 months, no, and Martin is one of the shareholders of that place, and then uh then is I mean, Martin was just such a horrible. I mean, like Martin has this reputation of like, of basically all this Me Too movement is completely Martin. Like the way how he just like use his presence to just take young women and all this thing. Like that's completely Martin's personality. But like he's recently become a father, and people said I haven't seen him maybe in maybe 2 years, and people said that he changed a lot since he became a father, as well in the way how he said things, because before I mean he started from this basically Spamberianism that basically is just this manifesto where he's just like saying fuck off, this is what I think and this is the thing, which many of the things I relate with. He's a very clever person as well. He's a philosopher, no? So that's something as well that is a bit tricky always. Like when you're a philosopher, like your fields is the words. So it's somebody who really can make speech about it. But then what I heard from people that I met during these 2 months, sometimes people come and go, and people were referring to him that people who saw him recently, as well to his last work, then he's so more down to earth, and the kind of thing that he will say now they're maybe not completely different, but maybe just there is a different approach. Let's say there's much more respect in a way to who are you saying things, while before he was saying just world, this is my thought and this is it, take it or leave it. And now he's a bit more conservative, I think,
Mm.
which I haven't experienced so far. So I would like to see him. So yeah, but that's Martin. Martin is somebody who is very In my personal approach to dance has influenced a lot of my thinking. And I think in general, like the way how like performance art and relation with the world, with the contemporaneity, he put a lot of things there because of his approach, basically. So, but he put many of these things there. Basically, he just generated a huge conflict for many people, which is good. Yeah. So yeah, I think the last thing that I don't know. I think he did like the last thing he did was like the eat. Well, I don't, that should not be the last one, but one of the pieces that he works about internet. I think was there was one thing called the internet. I think,
Okay.
uh, and I think he's just painting himself in green. I think, basically, I think that's what he's doing. While I think he's singing something from some like kitsch pop songs and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
like other pieces.
Um,
Yeah, sure.
like that's his thing. And because he's Martin, so he said, yeah, okay, I'm gonna do it. I will do it, and I did. But I definitely I think it's an interesting character to
Maybe we should maybe we
to.
should play pop song next time we do best practice from Rihanna or Sia or whatever.
See what happens. Um. So yeah, okay, but so we have like next practice, like we're gonna keep like in Thursday 9 p.m.
Yeah,
Is that good for you?
I think so. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
always it's everything is possible, no? Just we keep in touch and then just we
Yeah, I
see
think
where.
Thursday's fine. I just have something during the day, but I'll be back by 9, so totally works.
Okay. Yeah, it seems good to me. And then maybe I agree with you that we can't be more how to say it, like be more uh aggressive. Like one day we can really like just
What do you
put
agree
a
with?
Rihanna
With
song.
a
Maybe
pop
one day
song or
without
whatever?
maybe one day without telling the other one, just like while we're doing this, all of a sudden, then it's just Rihanna in the background, like sure, like
Yeah,
we do. I think like what I think is interesting is that we should not agree in the frameworks. I mean, a part of basics, like where are we going, live lab, these kind of things.
yeah.
A part of like some basics place that we're going, we should not agree too much in what are we doing.
No.
If one day you feel or I feel, then I will do like karaoke in a tongue, then with Rihanna, so be. And that's part of the practice, and then just we deal with what happens with it.
And then I just start painting myself green.
I just really start imagining myself like completely naked, just in a thong, a green thong, uh, with chroma, with some Rihanna in the back. Yeah, yeah. Like yeah, I think we can start like playing more with these things. As well, I'm curious because this is the first time that I'm gonna try it with all my smoke machines, with all my DMX lights. So we'll see. So this time I need to use I need to make work that fuck I okay, but I can do it through Hydra. Like I need to work with the chroma. Because the last sessions I didn't work with chroma because I didn't need it. I was
Right.
using my background, but in this session I'm gonna work with my chroma, and since the OBS is not working
Mm.
anymore, I just go through Hydra. So I'm gonna try, and if I cannot make it work, then maybe I will just contact you to just try to make it work through the code or
Yeah,
something.
I mean, we can also do it during the session, or we can do it in advance or whatever.
All right, all right, man. So we can close it here. You know what? I think I'm gonna do. I'm gonna send you my notes. I think they're not so crazy as normally they are, because I try to make some sense of it, and then you do whatever you want with that. Yeah, I just gonna control C, and then I send it to you here.
Cool. Yeah,
Good.
I'll also try to write a little bit. Oh, okay, that's cool. Okay, try this say that. Yeah, I mean, I don't. I try not to be a philosopher, but I like writing, and I think it's also thinking about the methodology and stuff. It's good to write.
So I think it's important. I think it's important we. I think it's important that we just like then first and like this is the first time that I'm doing consciously this like basically while we're talking that I'm trying just to put some things together. Um, so I think it's important because otherwise the we don't advance too much in the concept
Yeah, I
and I think
totally
it's
agree.
important for like what I think that the best like the best conceptual idea that we have through this session is that we're gonna use Rihanna. That was the best. That's the best after all this like 2 hours of talking is okay, we agree Rihanna is relevant for the practice at some point.
At some point, yeah. Well, I like Rihanna.
At some, I like Rihanna. I'm not joking. I like Rihanna. I like that for cleaning and stuff or dancing when I feel like I put kitsch songs, of course, like Rihanna,
I mean, also
Sia,
we can just
all
like
of them together.
listen to music like instead of just playing it to live lab. You can just like play it in your
We should
headphones.
we should create like yeah. We should create one practice as well, like just listening to kitsch music.
Yeah, you just make your playlist and just play it
A
in your
playlist.
headphones.
I have a playlist like this kitsch music in my YouTube.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So keep in touch and let me know. I think it's interesting like from what you in terms of like the Note 20, I think it's like definitely go for this idea of proposing these trackable qualities. That would work. And the other thing is, in a way, try with your contacts with the CCL, try to maybe find if there is somebody who has some around methodologies of archiving. I don't know how you could try to reframe it, trying to find people who can talk something about it. That will be interesting for Node and for us,
Yeah.
you know. Okay,
Okay. Thanks a lot.
ciao, man.
Ciao. Good
Peace.
night.